For the first time since you met her, Glory's expression seems to brighten. It's subtle, but it's there. You're sure of it. SCKC, a pleasure as always. Need anything from me? How you doing, Glory? I mean, Glory is surprisingly better adjusted than Iga. I mean, she's adjusting faster than Iga. Golden as always, SCKC. No problem here. Are you sure? If I didn't know any better, I think you were warming up to me. Let's not do that. Let's not point it out. Are you ready to tell me about that chrome you're spotting? Any thought on that last run? Are you ready to tell me about that chrome you're spotting? I'm getting the SCKC, but you have to give me some time. The answers will come when they do. You said that things went bad when you turned about 14. I'd like to keep going about that. She stares at you, her face expressionless. No, I'd rather not. Why not? Why not? Because it's trauma! Because I don't see a reason to. The memories are unpleasant, and dredging them up doesn't serve any real purpose. You're wrong about that. The last time we talked, it had an impact on you. That's reason enough to continue. Okay, I mean, about therapy, I'm not a therapist, first of all. If you have problems, don't talk to me. Talk to a real therapist who can actually help you. But what I understand about therapy is your memories. Your memories are tied to bad feelings. Like if you are traumatized, if you have trauma, your memories are tied to bad feelings. When you remember the things, you feel the bad feelings. Or sometimes when you feel the bad feelings, you have the memories. So because they're tied together. And therapy is to try to untangle the memories from the bad feelings. And the way you do that, the way you untangle that is you recall the memories in a setting where you don't have the bad feelings. Right? That's why when you go to a therapist, like, you know, the cliche therapist is you go and you lie down on the couch and everything's nice and the therapist calmly talks to you. Why do you lie down on the couch? Because you make yourself comfortable. You make yourself comfortable and you relax, and so that your body isn't feeling the fear, and well, you're trying as much as possible not to feel the pain and the fear and the tenseness. So you're trying to relax as much as possible as you remember these things. And by doing that, you create a new memory where you are recalling these events in a setting where you are lying down comfortably and calm and everything's nice. So perhaps the next time you remember the thing, instead of remembering the pain, you instead remember some of the lying down on the couch with the therapist. Right? See how that works? And then you go to the you go away, and you go to the therapist again, and you do the same thing again. And the more you recall the memory in a setting where you are comfortable, the more you add more and more memories where you are comfortable with this memory, versus where the original event is you are very where the memory is very painful. You just stack more and more and more of these new memories on top of that, where you're not experiencing pain as you're recalling the memory. And that's how over time you dilute the pain that is attached to the memory by adding on top of the memory a different setting that is comfortable and painless and calm and peaceful. So that's why you talk about these things. But you have to remember, you have to talk about these things in a situation where you are comfortable and calm and peaceful and relaxed. Because that's the feeling you want to add on top of the feeling that existed before, right? That's the purpose of talking about bad things that happen. Right? Cool. So Glory is wrong. There is a purpose to talking about unpleasant things, because if we are in a pleasant situation, then over time talking about the unpleasant things in a pleasant situation will dilute the unpleasantness. That's how therapy works. She pauses for a moment to consider your words, a troubled look on her face. I suppose that's true. Feeling discomfort is better than feeling nothing at all. Is it? Maybe it's not. Is it? Alright, here's the deal, SCKC. I'm gonna talk, you listen. When I'm done, I'm done. No complaints and no arguments. And we'll see what happens. Deal? Deal. Right. The 1,000-meter stare creeps back into Glory's eyes. A moment later, she is locked away in her own head again, reliving memories that she long since filed away. So a few days after my 14th birthday, I began to express, magically. You're magically active? Should have figured that you were a burnout. That's why you went nuts with the discount chrome. You couldn't hack it as a street mage. Oh. Oh, right. So when you augment your body, when you remove your biological bits and you replace them with robot bits, you lose your magic. Alright. So she was magically active and she killed it with the augments. Alright, go on. Go on. There's another long pause and Glory becomes more animated. Anyway, I turned 14. I awakened. I don't even remember how my parents found out about it anymore. I think that my dad caught me playing with a tiny city spirit that I coaxed out of a pile of garbage, something like that. With everything that happened afterwards, those days were kind of a blur. What I do remember is my father's response to the revelation that his little girl was a witch, a hexer. He beat the living shit out of me with his fist, and then his belt, and then a claw hammer that he grabbed out of his toolbox. But he didn't kill you. That's weird. I mean, if you're gonna beat someone with a hammer, but you don't kill them, why are you beating them with a hammer? What do you hope to accomplish? I mean, if you say, she's a witch, kill her, and they kill her, that I understand. Right? Anyway. All the while my mother was screaming and flailing at him. She took a couple of licks with the hammer too. It's a miracle that you survived. I'd very much like to murder your father. You know what? Maybe she did kill her father. What about the neighbors? Didn't anyone call the police? It's a miracle that you survived. I'm just lucky, I guess. Or maybe you're magic, Glory. So finally, after what felt like an hour, Dad stopped tuning me up with the hammer. I had broken ribs, a busted arm, I couldn't see out of my left eye, and my entire right side was covered with one giant bruise. I was bleeding all over the place, making a real mess of the carpet. The old bastard spat on me, his bleeding, crying daughter, he spat on me, and told me that I was as tough as her, the devil's whore. Then he kicked me out of the house. Right. As I was crawling away, my father told me that if he or any of its Krautsitter brothers ever saw me again, they'd treat me as the Berlin chapter treats the enemies of God. If you're not familiar with how the Krautritter here in Berlin deals with heretics, it's decidedly less pretty than what my dad and his buddies did to their victims. I got the hint, and the next morning I hitched a ride out of Stuttgart. But he didn't kill her. You were a human girl, presumably with an ID. Why didn't you go to an hospital? Gutsy move, you're a smart kid. Hold on. You had broken ribs and a broken arm. And you managed to hitch your ride out of Stuttgart with broken ribs and a broken arm? Or did you use your magic to heal yourself? Go on. I don't want to question her. Like, usually you don't question. Especially not on the first hearing. Right? Like, I know this game is not a real therapy session, but if this was a real not that I'm a therapist, I would not question them on the first hearing. I would like just hear the whole story and take notes, and then maybe afterwards, if there are any like contradictions in the story, I would come back and ask about those. I wound up in Tübingen. I figured it'd be a safe enough place to find medical attention and maybe call home. It's not far from Stuttgart, but it has a huge student community that I figured I could blend into. And the university there has a decent magic department. My ride dropped me off at the university hospital and they patched me up pretty good. Had some questions for me about how I got so beaten up, but I lied and told them that I'd been mugged, which played nicely into my complete lack of cash, credit and identification. Glory pauses for a moment and looks down at the floor, then fixes her eyes at you. She is visibly tense. We're gonna fast forward through the next few years. I was a kid on the street. I got by as best as I could, doing whatever I had to. The rest we can leave up to your imagination. Good? My imagination is... Alright, good. You did what you had to. I'm no stranger to that myself. I don't think that anyone working the shadows is. Of course, I'll need you to hear what you're comfortable talking about, nothing more. Good. You did what you had to do. I'm no stranger to that myself. No, don't assume that you know what they went through. Alright? I mean, yes, I'm a Shadowrunner, yes, I do things. Don't assume that what you did is the same as what she did, right? Alright, good, good. Good. Glory's clenched jaws relax somewhat, and the tension drains out of his shoulders. Thanks. No problem. So anyway, I lived on the street for a few years, got used to being hungry all the time, got used to getting rained on, got by. I was painfully aware that I had magical talents, but without any kind of training or guidance, I didn't really know how to use or develop them. Truth be told, they scared me, so I more or less ignored them. So it just sort of went like that until a few days after my 17th birthday. Then I met Marta and everything changed. Marta was a sweet girl. At first I took her for a street kid like me. Her clothes were a little dirty and she seemed comfortable being near me, but she also looked well fed and happy, and those were two things that I hadn't been in years. We started hanging out and before I knew what was happening I was in love. Uh-oh. There was a genuine attraction between Marta and me, I think, but I also think that a lot of my affection for her came from the fact that she was the first person in years to give a damn about me. She cared, and I loved her for that. Glory pauses, she looks flustered, her composure cracked. Keep going. She stares at you for a beat, then nods. A few ragged breaths later she continues. Marta told me about a place where she'd been hanging out. She invited me to join her there. It was called Fullestel, the fireplace. Fierstella, the fireplace. And it was sort of a community for dispossessed youth. It turns out that a lot of the street kids I'd known over the years had moved there. The way that they disappeared, I'd assumed they'd been kidnapped or killed, or had gone back to their parents, but there they were. I remember being kind of angry about it, like how did everybody get the memo about this but me? It's not a... sounds like a trap. Marta calmed me down. She was good at helping me work through my feelings, and I wound up following her to Fierstella. To a street kid, it was basically paradise. The owner, a guy named Haro, had set up this little farm just outside Tübingen, in the Schonbusch forest. The Schonbusch is officially a nature park, but not many people go there nowadays. Too much fear of paranormal animals, I guess. Anyway, park or not, it was plenty big enough for us to hide in. It was also safe and pretty, and the farm was well stocked with food. Most importantly, Fürsteller gave us a sense of community and stability that we never had on the street. And we loved Harrow for that. He became like a surrogate father to us. Well, that's big of him. Glory pauses again, and you recognize the distinctive flush in her cheeks. She seems to have come out of her reverie once again. That's enough for now. I need to process all of this, and I don't want to continue forward until I've had the chance to do that. Okay. I know that this all happened years ago, but I guess it's still pretty raw to me, so I'm gonna ask you to give me some space for a while. She turns away, and the frost begins to creep back into her voice. We can pick it back up later. Alright. It's a little strange that we're playing therapist to these guys. Like... I mean, yes, but... It's a little strange. And they put these in this game. That's so interesting. This is like a lot more difficult than most games put into their stories. Like, I mean, like dealing with trauma obviously is difficult. I mean, if it's not difficult, it wouldn't be trauma. But yeah, I didn't expect it to be this hard. It's not that hard for me, but I can recognize that it's a lot harder than everything else that I've played before. In terms of like story, it's a lot harder than most stories that I've read or watched or played through before. It's not so hard that like I can't do it. Like I'm perfectly fine doing it, but I can recognize that this is like going a lot deeper than stories usually go. And I do appreciate it. But I do appreciate like a serious story. I have some issues with Aiga. Like the way she describes the military doesn't seem right to me. Either that or it's just a shitty military. That's also possible. Not all militaries are well run. Some militaries are just not very well led, right? Maybe that's one of those. Anyway, I'm gonna save the game, take a break here. When we come back, we look at the computer, find our next mission, and then we go do that. Alright, let me save it. And I'll see you next time.